Hello, guys, and thank you for joining today. This is the Sauna series, episode 1, Will of Fire. And in today's episode, we got a bunch of things to cover. First of all, this is my first ever podcast, so obviously I'm very excited to be here with you guys. I love podcasts. I'm not even joking. I travel every day into New York City by train, so that's about almost a 2 hour commute, my bad, there and back. And so I have a lot of time on my hands to just listen to music, and sometimes music gets old, so I'll tune into a podcast here and there, and they've been very influential, and it's kind of inspired me to make my own. So, pretty much just want to talk about me, about this show and my plans for its future, and obviously from the title and thumbnail, the Will of Fire phrase, which is from Naruto, as many anime fans probably have heard. But if you're not an anime fan or didn't watch Naruto, I could translate it for you and what that means, and as well as some news, what's going on present day and time as the time I'm recording this, as well as my perspective on it all, and that's gonna pretty much cover everything I would like to discuss. So the reason why it's called the Sauna series because I'm actually sitting in a sauna while I'm recording this. Um, yeah, it kind of is like the hot ones challenge, except instead of, you know, it's just my tongue feeling hot, my whole body's burning up here. So, I definitely want to start talking about, fitness, because that's part of the reason why I'm in here is to do some cardio and, obviously detox and sweat and just have a bit of rejuvenation, feeling when I get out of the sauna. But I'm very big into lifting weights. Um, it is a passion for me because I love to do it. But even on top of that, it is therapeutic, and I always say that because no matter what type of mood, day, time, I'm always down to go to the gym. And I find like most people who love the gym realize that there's obviously if you love the gym, then you could go at any time. But there's something about the gym that you know well, if you know, you know, really. Something about the gym that just brings good things, whether it be weight loss, muscle gain, or even a mindset. Most people don't realize that the gym is very mental. They just think that, oh, you go there and, you got to kill yourself lifting weights. And I don't mean to kill yourself, but people like don't understand that that's different types of intensities, really have a huge effect on the progression that you're going to make. Not a lot of people go in there who go every day and go 100% every day. And that's a great way to live life. Don't get me wrong. If you're not giving it 110%, especially in a big city like New York, it's going to be hard to find success when all these people are going after it every single day and giving it their all. But in terms of the gym and your body, a lot of, muscle gain is seen when you rest. Obviously the purpose of a workout is to shred the muscle up and cut it up. It's scientifically proven. I mean, like most people know, just you're just ripping up fibers. That's what the muscle's made up out of. And then a couple of days rest, 2 3 days rest after you've really gone to town shredding your muscles and going 110%. You're gonna take those days off so that the muscle can rebuild itself and it'll rebuild itself a little bit larger and stronger and you can come back better. But if you're not going 110%, right? If you hit the workout maybe 75%, doesn't mean you're not trying, just means that you're not shredding the muscle to the absolute point where you need a day or two off. So, that's I'm not really a personal trainer. Do follow a lot of them. Would like to become one. But we'll talk about me in a little bit. Right now I'm a very skinny person, weighing in at just over 150 pounds, with the goal of weighing in at just over 200 pounds. So as you can see, that is a lot of muscle to put on. A lot. Like I don't even know why I have this goal. Doesn't I don't necessarily need to weigh 200 pounds, but I just think that at the end of the day, or at the end of my life, or at the end of it all, all this training doesn't have to be in the life. By the time I'm done, like really training, just when I'm old and stuff, and like obviously I'll still train, but not in the way I used to when I was this age in my prime or heading into my prime. I want to be that weight, and I want it to be pure muscle, and that's just a want. It's not necessarily a desire. I was actually got this from another podcast. I would like to give credits to that podcast, but I'm gonna have to link it in the description for you guys because I can't remember off the top of my head. But pretty much the name of the podcast was Wants and Desires, or Wants versus Desires, and we're talking about the difference between the two, comparing them, all that, and you know the main thing that is that a want doesn't go as deep as a desire. A want, for example, is something that is surface level, versus a desire is something that obviously goes way deeper and something that you're willing to, obviously put more forward for. So do I want to gain 50 pounds of muscle? Yes. Do I desire it? No. Well, why? Because I know my desires, and after listening to this podcast is what, made me pinpoint all this. Well, I desire to be is healthy. So, there's a way to get 50 pounds of muscle by shooting up some roids, doing little SARMs. Even if it's light, I'll get there eventually. But I'm not gonna go and take tren or something, just because I want to gain weight. Although some people do. A lot of people in the spotlight too. They have people criticizing them, and they allow people to criticize them into making a life choice. And what I mean by life choice is something that personally affects their life. Like it's not like all your fans are telling you to like rep something, and you know you go and you rep it, but at the end of the day you could take that shirt off or take that jersey off. For example, I'm from New York. I love the Yankees. If you're in my family, or like I have a girlfriend, and I told her like, look, you're gonna be a Yankees fan if you're coming into this family. Or if you're in my family, you're a Yankees fan. You're born into it. It's not that, where I could just like, oh, the next day I don't want to be a Yankees fan, I put on a Mets jersey. It's a lot deeper than that. And YouTubers, for example, are doing that, which is crazy to me because they already have a platform and they've got almost a responsibility. It seems like, where's the fitness industry gonna go if all these YouTubers are seeing comments about them being small, instead of going and hitting the gym, they're shooting up and then going and hitting in the gym. So, that's obviously a want. If you wanted to gain weight, you know, I guess if it was a desire and I was unable to do it, then, I'd probably take roids, but it's not a desire for me, it's a want. What I desire to be healthy and well. And in order to do that, it's more about prevention and protection than, you know, after you get sick, for example, you gotta do all that extra work. Whereas if, you prepare yourself so that you don't get sick, you don't really have to worry about anything until you get sick. But when you get sick, you've already been, doing all this work that either A, hopefully doesn't come, or when it does come, you're, ready for it, and now you're going to fight with your life to make sure that you overcome whatever disease, God forbid. So, I go see a chiropractor. I want nothing wrong with my back when I get older, so I'm seeing a chiropractor, making sure that everything is up to date every day. I'm a vegan, clean eater. Do that because I really want some longevity of this life. Because life is what you make it, and try to make the best choices here for my body to allow it to grow. So how am I going to gain 50 pounds of muscle being a vegan? Well, I desire to be healthy. I just got to eat a lot of vegetables, and I want to gain that weight, so that's why I'm eating a lot. But because I desire to be healthy, that's what I'm eating. Because I want to gain muscle, that's how much of it I eat. It's not that good of an analogy. Like I said, I'm going to link the podcast in the description below where I heard this analogy, and maybe, if you didn't understand it from me, you can understand it from him. either way, I'm also a student. I like chemistry, I like science, like math. I guess I go to school in this. Well, I travel to the city every day. That is for school. I go to school in Manhattan College, and I'm a junior there. You know, a lot of work becoming a college student. If either you guys listening are college students or want to be graduating, becoming a college student, or want to graduate, want to go on to college, I definitely recommend it. If you're not sure what you want to do with your life, then I don't recommend it because it's a lot of money and it's a commitment. I've sacrificed a lot to be where I'm at right now. I didn't start off in Manhattan College. I started off at a community college. I would recommend that to all of you guys. It gives you a lot of freedom, flexibility, financial. You know, it's a lot cheaper there. There's a lot of good things about where I went for community college and who I was around, and it helped me get to a very good chemical engineering school in New York City of all places, where I love the energy there and I want to be there. So it's not like I can't say I didn't work to get where I want to, but I'm also extremely blessed to have the background. And I also have a background in a little entrepreneurship that dates back to when I was a kid. I think the more things that you can get yourself involved with is just the more experience you have, of life in general. And it's a great thing to just try out whatever interests you so that you can know, like, all right, this is what I want, this is what I don't want, this is how I'm gonna go about things. And in terms of entrepreneurship, with social media nowadays, you could make so many different things. Thing is now there's so many people making so many different things that it's kind of flooding markets. And to make yourself distinct and stand out, you really got to put in a lot of work. So I will try to, help you guys with what I'm doing in terms of my entrepreneurship so that maybe you guys can, get the same work ethic or know what to do and what not to do when going about your future businesses. So that's pretty much about me. And the show, I'm going to be airing it once a week on Thursday nights. I want to bring in special guests occasionally. We'll see how much I get into, and those will all be depending on the topics that we will be covering in the episode. Once I have some specific topics that I want to cover, I'll know who exactly to bring in that will know information about that, so that you guys can hear right from like a source, direct source, what I'm talking about. For example, with fitness, I'll try to bring in a personal trainer, or with the news, I'll try to bring in, a reporter, and not necessarily a news reporter on TV. There's a lot of YouTubers, if it, depending on the type of news, that not necessarily react to videos, but talk about what else is going on. So I'll try to, have special guests here and there for you guys. Try to promote this channel. I want to talk about sports news, not just, well, I like sports, so I'm going to talk about sports news, not just the regular news. In case you think the news is boring, I want to talk about, coming into manhood, because that's where I'm at in my life right now. And for everybody else getting there, you could be 15, you could be 10, you could be 30, you know, at all these ages living with your parents still and trying to become your own financially independent person. And that's, one of the keys to becoming a man, but there's, a lot that I want to talk about with, a man in, 2021 is a lot different than a few decades ago. So we'll talk about that. Like I said, some business advice, not just necessarily investing, but how to grow. And not how to grow just a business, but also grow like yourself by, self improvement and all that. And if anything that comes to my mind is like really inspiring to me, I want to inspire you guys with this podcast. That's the whole goal. It is entertaining to talk about certain things, and I'll try to, keep as much entertainment with this podcast as well. But I also want to inspire you guys to just to become better, because at the end of the day, that's what I'm waking up and thinking. How can I become better today? And that's what I can leave you guys off with right now. But we got to get into the name of the the name of the podcast, The Will of Fire, and I just realized I haven't even brushed upon the name and we're halfway through. Thank you guys for sticking around if you've been listening from the beginning. This first episode, um, I got the first episode jitters as well as being in this hot sauna that's actually getting really hot right now. So I'm gonna try to wrap it up for you guys, but obviously I want to make sure I get this point across because even after watching Naruto all 1,000 episodes, 10 I was a bit of a fan, but I still didn't get it until a certain point where I had to experience certain things in my life. And then, obviously thinking about Naruto since I'm a big fan, always repping him on my clothing or, whatever, my phone, wallpaper. Like, I just had him in my head with a certain experience, and then the Will of Fire came into my mind. I finally understood it. Or even if you know that scene where you have Asuma playing chess with Shikamaru, that's a scene that, very emotional for a fan who's watched the show. And I don't know why it's just said chess, but it's shogi. But for everybody who hasn't watched the show, shogi kind of looks like chess, but it's a little bit different. Either way, just like in chess, right? You have the king, okay? And pretty much the lesson of this episode was for this mentor, the guy whose name was Asuma, to put onto his student Shikamaru what it means to protect the king. And he did this through a game of chess or shogi, whatever you want to call it, because Shikamaru was a very, well-respected intellectual as a kid because he came from a generation of people who were, like-minded like him, and he had his own skills as well. So he was, predestined to be like a very smart guy. So that's why they're like, let's leave this kid with this message here, so that maybe one day he can leave Asuma's daughter. Well, he didn't know it was a daughter at the time, but Asuma's future kid with that message. Now the whole episode, I don't want to spoil it. The whole episode, the way that the message was portrayed is, like I said, they were playing a game, and what he was doing with the game was he was, yeah, you have a king's piece in chess, but when he's asking who is the king, that's the question he was asking him. He was trying to teach a lesson that all the pieces that are sacrificed to protect the king, who are they really protecting? Is it some guy sitting up in a tower, and like is it our president of the United States? And obviously that's, the straightforward simple answer. So, I'm asking an intellectual that who's going to think about it and maybe overthink it and realize that there's something more. The king represents something. And you could tell, like, well, the king kind of has a responsibility to take care of, people that follow his leadership. And so maybe if you're protecting the king, you're protecting all people that follow him. Well, they go into battle. They actually lose the battle. And in his final moments, Asuma tells the whole team, not just Shikamaru, but the rest of his, his two other team members, that the king is actually the future generation. So protecting the king is protection of the future generations to come. It's pretty deep, right? Well, you guys can think about that one. Maybe watch the episode. Try to make it for you guys in the first description. Well, let's talk about the Will of Fire now. It's literally on fire in here. Sweat and all that disgusting, but that's what life is. You really gotta want things in life. You're gonna get it. Otherwise, somebody's out there potentially wanting more than you. But let's talk about the Will of Fire. So there were different nations in the show Naruto, or villages. So, what are they called? Villages, I believe. And I know Sand Village. There's like the Hidden Mist Village. I think the Clouds was another one, the Cloud Village, but I might have got that name wrong. Stone Village, and then the Fire Village. The Village of Fire, Will of Fire. You know, it all sounds really nice. So basically, the guy who started the first clan that was in that territory that the village, present day is in, they had this saying, and eventually that clan, the area that it had settled upon, grew into be a much larger territory that it became the Village of Fire. So the saying then became the Will of Fire, and it means to have a strong will. But what exactly, is the will of fire? What is the will of a person in the fire village? Take a look at it. Now, these guys are all shinobi, or another word for shinobi is ninjas. They're all fighting wars out there to try to bring honor to their village as well as protect the prosperous village and the peaceful village. So the will of fire is that love is the key to peace and prosperity. But specifically, love is the key to peace. Pretty deep again. So you have to look at the entire village as a family unit. And every single shinobi in that village or in that family who has the will of fire not only loves, but believes, cherishes, and fights to protect that village. And it's not necessarily about, the money in the village, the prosperity in the village. It's about what the village stands for, and that's the will of fire. That's the will to protect that village. So you got to think about what you stand for next. And I'm here always trying to figure it out, because it could change. You could want something, then it could become a desire. I'm cooking in here, but besides the point, the will of fire, what it means to me is that, like I said, I'm blessed. And so because I have these blessings, I have to protect them. One. Like I said, I already appreciate them, so that could be one. But two, that I appreciate. So you have your talents, you have your skills, you have whatever you have that makes you unique. You gotta love that. You gotta cherish that. You gotta protect that. But if it's a skill, for example, then you gotta sharpen that. You gotta dial that in to be the best. And if you just talk about it being the best version of yourself, like I said, I wake up every day trying to improve. So my will of fire is, this is what I've been given. What can I do to take what I've been given to the next level? And then when it's at the next level, what am I going to do with it? What am I going to use it for? Well, obviously I'm going to use it to protect it, so I can keep sharpening it, and keep protecting it, keep sharpening it, so I'm always taking a step up and up and up. But it's always the same things that I've been given. It's that same will, it's that same self-love. It's very important nowadays with this cancel culture. You don't want anybody else to get inside your head. Somebody says something, you don't have to accept it. Now, if it's a good thing, sure. Who doesn't like a compliment? Who doesn't want to take a compliment? But if it's something that is pretty nasty, or just something that you don't see eye to eye with, like if you want to be something that that person is saying, oh, you're this, and you're like, no, I'm not, and don't accept what they're saying. Use your will of fire to dig deep within. Realize, what have you been given? What have you been blessed with? And if it's nothing, what have you earned? What have you worked for? And then protect that. Protect your identity. Who are you? Like, your will is almost your identity. So will of fire is an identity for all the people who live in this village. And at the end of the day, it's just a will for them to protect each other. So look at yourself not as a village, but look at yourself as somebody who has a will, who has a way of life, a way of living life. And then do you want to continue to live your life that way? And if the answer is no, then your will of fire is to figure out, well, what do you want? Who are you? Figure out who you are. And then once you figure it out, it's how do I become that person? Because just because you say you're that person doesn't mean you are that person. It's how do I become that person? And once you become that person, it's how do I stay that person? And how do I protect my will of fire? Alright, well, I think I've spoken enough about Naruto. If you guys still don't understand the analogy, you gotta watch Naruto for yourself. So definitely go check it out. I recommend it. I love it. But right now, we got all these COVID-19 things coming out, if you know what I'm saying, and I'm not too big of a fan of that. I just want to put that on air. But if you guys have all got, your shots, that's good. Definitely doing what you got to do to keep society sustained and everybody going back to, making things move again. It's totally better than 2020 with everything shut down, but 2021 is still a mysterious time in terms of nobody knows what's going to happen going forward. Everything could crash again. And if you don't believe it, well, put all your eggs in one basket and let's see what happens to you. TikTok is slowly emerging, or rapidly emerging, but it's definitely changing culture as you know it. It's bringing all parts of the world together, and that's one beautiful thing about it. But it's also, it's hard to control. It's an addiction, it's a drug, whatever you want to call it. You looking at that screen, you're not improving yourself, in my opinion. Maybe if you're listening to a podcast like myself, but like I said, I like to keep these things entertaining. And that's what most people like to do, is draw your attention with something entertaining and short. Something as easy as a TikTok can get your attention for 7 seconds, and those could have been a different 7 seconds if you had been thinking about your will of fire, for example, or anything else really than just a silly little TikTok. The wealth gap really increased, and I know nobody's really talking about this, but that show on Netflix, Squid Games, that just came out, if you haven't watched that, really highlights what it's like to be in poverty, because these people are literally dying trying to win $1 million, and it's not like you're actually able to win $1 million, like, there is no, like, you could hit the lottery, but like in real life, like, you're just dying trying to make ends meet. Some countries can't even watch Squid Game. Responsibility as a news reporter or creator that, you're really putting out the right things there. It doesn't matter if you're going to not get the views or get shut down or whatever. You can't be doing what's wrong. You got to always try to follow your conscience and do what's right. What's right, they're kind of scared, just like how I'm terrified of saying the wrong thing, getting canceled, or saying the wrong thing, and, the worst. Keep knocking on that wood. So a lot of people are also scared of that, and they choose to ignore it, and there's some other people like myself consider to be woke and actively trying to not just necessarily fight against it, but represent the opposition against people who are just ignoring all the wrong shit going on in this world. Sorry for the word, sorry for the language, but like, it's true. There's a lot of bad things in our society that we need to put a stop to. I'll get specifics later, but in terms of yourself, if you got anything bad things going on with yourself, you can manifest. Alright guys, this is the key right here. Manifestation is not just chanting what you want. But obviously the first step is to visualize what it is that you want. And then everybody here who's listening, if you're still listening, take action. Paint a nice, clear picture of what you want. Set the goals and everything so you know step by step how to get there. That's manifestation. But once you have that step-by-step guideline, you think about getting there, then go there. And we'll talk about it differently, but you gotta take action, guys. A lot of people don't even know who they are. Like I said, everybody's looking for their own will of fire, or what it means to them, especially if you're listening to this and understand what I'm saying. Live your life so that when you're living, you know who you are and what you want. Don't live your life asleep, like I said, or just following all these trends on social media, or just going with the normal because you're scared to stand out. Otherwise, you're just dead. Or if you're asleep, for example, It's the closest thing to death without actually dying. So when you wake up and you have a hard time getting out of bed, do you really want to go back to death? I bet if you looked at it another way, like, oh, I'm alive? Well, thank God. And once you wake up and you're alive, you realize that all you have is to live. And if you've been listening to this podcast, all this time that you spent listening to this podcast, you spent living, but that life is gone. The past half hour is dead. So thank you guys all for tuning in. Continue to live your lives with the will of fire. And remember, it's hot in this sauna. So give us a like or something, please. I'm going to take a shower. Be easy, y'all. See you next week.